welcome you to the Camping World Maui Invitational. But we're not in Maui this year. We are in Asheville, North Carolina.
No, Maui isn't in Asheville. And yes, you are looking at the new normal of college basketball, where spiking numbers of coronavirus cases nationwide have caused more game cancellations, postponements, and playing adjustments than in any other sport. Even before tipping off the season 1 week ago, men's teams had over 150 games canceled or postponed. Women's teams, more than 200. On the women's side, preseason number 3 UConn was benched before its season started, postponing its first 4 games due to a positive test, just days after head coach Gino Auriemma lamented the difficulty of playing during a pandemic.
I can see this happening every week. One place says, yeah, we're good to go. The other school says, no, you're not. Is there a way to keep it out? No, I don't think there is. Because if there was, everybody would be doing it.
Among the men, preseason number 9 Duke postponed its season opener against Gardner-Webb after a positive test within the Runnin' Bulldogs program. And Baylor canceled a season-opening matchup against Arizona State and a potential showdown with Villanova after head coach Scott Drew tested positive for COVID-19. Drew joined an ever-expanding list of big-name coaches contracting the virus, including Michigan State's Tom Izzo, Syracuse's Jim Boeheim, Tennessee's Rick Barnes, Ole Miss's Kurt Davis, and Seton Hall's Kevin Willard.
I don't think anybody's been through this. I've sure never been through it as a coach. This is something new for us all.
Another challenge, dealing with state coronavirus restrictions. New Mexico banned games or workouts exceeding 5 people, forcing the University of New Mexico to relocate their men's and women's programs to different Texas towns. Several tournaments, like the Maui Invitational, have had to get creative to deal with the scourge of COVID. Bubbleville at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut successfully incorporated several events and reimagined them as a collective showdown of 45 games in 11 days. And after Duke pulled out of the battle for Atlantis, the tournament sponsor, Bad Boy Mowers, moved its games from the Bahamas to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a new COVID hotspot. But those tournaments pale in comparison to the biggest moneymaker in all of college sports, the NCAA Men's Basketball Tournament. All 68 teams invited to the big dance will now be concentrated in one site, likely Indianapolis, rather than the previously planned 13 locations, in hopes of saving the crown jewel of the college basketball season. To discuss college basketball's effort to play amidst the pandemic and how they've done so far, let's welcome in ESPN basketball analyst Jay Bilas. Jay, how would you rate the efforts of the NCAA to minimize the risk of COVID-19 transmission so far this season?
I think overall very good. There were some challenges early because of the enormity of the problem nationwide and all of the different constituencies that the NCAA had to deal with. But I think overall, to get both football and basketball off the ground and toward an endpoint, I think the NCAA has done a good job.
Now, you covered the games in Bubbleville. What lessons do you think can be learned from that environment to potentially reduce the number of canceled or postponed games for the rest of the season?
Well, one, that bubbles work. I mean, you remember, Ryan, early on, NCAA administrators, whether they be from conferences or from the NCAA office itself, were saying that no students on campus, no college sports. And they backed off that in a hurry because we're playing without students on campus. And then they said no bubbles. These are amateurs. And we are playing in bubbles. We're playing basketball in bubbles. All these teams are isolated. I mean, you have teams that are living in hotels and taking online courses and really not leaving their hotel except to go to practice. So we have bubbles now, and we're going to have bubbles going forward because they work. The problem is it doesn't fit the NCAA's longtime narrative about sort of amateurism when this has nothing to do with amateurism. It's a multi-billion-dollar business, and we're going forward with it no matter what. We're not putting anybody's health at risk, but it's not like there's a differentiation between the paid staff and what we're willing to put them through and the quote-unquote unpaid amateurs. It's all the same.
That's a very interesting point. Now, I have to ask, how did that bubble that you were in differ from, say, what we saw in the NBA? And do you think it's a feasible concept for the NCAA tournament?
I think it is feasible. It wasn't as strict of a bubble as the NBA had, where once you're in, you can't go out. You have teams coming and going, but for example, when I got to Connecticut, to the Mohegan Sun, I was tested right away. I was quarantined for 30 hours before the test came back, and I could not leave my room the entire time I was there unless I was escorted back of the house to the gym. So I was in my room or in the gym, and that was it. And that was true of all the players and coaches and anyone involved in the tournament. So it was a pretty strict bubble, and it worked out very well. If you had anybody test positive once you got there, you had to leave. It happened to a couple teams where they had members of their traveling party, usually not players, usually staff, that tested positive, and because of contact tracing, they were all sent back. So we had a lot of changes, but it worked out well, and I think it's a good roadmap for how we're going to see things go forward. Not necessarily in conference play, but there will be some adjustments there, but certainly for the NCAA tournament.
So then you talk about the NCAA tournament. What's your confidence level that we will see the NCAA men's tournament played to completion?
I'm very confident. I think we're going to see it in large measure because we have to. And I don't mean this as a knock on anything, but this is a multi-billion-dollar business, and you can't just shut it down. There are too many livelihoods, too many contracts, too much money changing hands to shut it down. So it's going to be played to completion, but we're going to have to deal with a lot of disruptions, including disruptions once we get to the NCAA tournament. There are possibilities that of the 68 teams that go to, I believe it will be Indianapolis, it's not final there, they'll be in one city at maybe different venues. We might see forfeitures of games. That's possible. So when teams lose, obviously they're going to leave, but we could see forfeitures. We're just going to have to adapt to the circumstances we have and overcome them. And I think everybody's confident that we're gonna make all those efforts to get it in.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.